Okay, we'll say the prayer. If you have a recitation book on page number 10, we'll say in Tibetan 2 times, in English 1 time.
Lama la jazu che Sanje la jazu che la jazu che Gendan la jazu che Lama la jazu che Sanje la jasu che la jasu che gendan la jasu che dan so je jo na la shang chu bar de dan jasu Da ge zhen so tie wei so nang ji ro la pan zhi san ji zhe ber shou san ji qi dang so ji chong nang la shang zhi bar de dang ne jiao sun ji Da ge zhen so tie wei so nang ji ro la pan zhi san jian zhe ber shou tam zhi de wa dang de wei ji dang dang ber ji xu Sem chen tam zhi ding dang ding ji dang zha wer ji xu Sem chen tam zhi ding me bi de wa dang man zha wer ji xu Sem chen tam zhi nie rong cha dang ni dang zha wei da nyong la ni wer ji xu Zhe de wa dang de wei ji dang dang ber ji xu Sem zhen tam zhi ding dang ding ji dang zha wer ji xu Sem zhen tam zhi ding me bi de wa dang man zha wer ji xu Sem zhen tam zhi nie rang cha dang ni dang zha wei Da nyong la ni wer ji ju Hong bei ji xi xiang mi do zheng Zhi ru long zhi nier di jian ban de Sang ji shang de me de me hua yi Ru ge nan da shang la jiu ber shou Yi deng ge ri zha na man zha la zha de Ya me
In English on page number 11, I take refuge in the
Guru,
Guru.
I
I
take
take
refuge
refuge in
in
the
the Buddha,
Buddha.
I
I
take
take
refuge in
refuge in the
the Sangha,
Dharma. I
I
take
take
refuge
refuge
in
in
the
the
Sangha.
Sangha. From
From now
now,
until my enlightenment,
ultimate,
I take
Guru,
refuge in the
Guru,
Buddha, the
Guru
Dharma,
Dharma,
and the
the
Sangha.
Sangha.
And by the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and causes.
May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient beings
beings
be free
suffer
from
from
suffering
suffering
and
causes.
causes. May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient beings
beings never be
also suffer
separated from joyful bliss. May all
from
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. This ground, a mountain with perfume, strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, encircled by the four continents, surmounted by the sun and the moon, I visualize this Buddha-filled offering. May all living beings enjoy the pure name.
약간 당 대랑 로마톤지 곰자틴스 소타 쳇탕타 잠볼랑 나임 티강라 탕파탕 선배 야갈라 페나임 시침볼도와 어때 자투조치 신좀 영화 당 산적 영화 딘디게 몰름 투고 잠치는 진도 말라 소아답지 행을 다리 띠띠 곰잡네 스탄 로바 나바데다가 딩을 때다 삼라 삼비고네 딩을 때다 자나 삼비 삼로 양지르와 양지 곰비고네 아니 지로 말라 소아답지네 같이 don't chase.
Now, good morning. Welcome. Now, I would like to ask you to keep in your mind one thing that is critical while we are practicing the recitation of Aryantara mantra and meditation. So keep in mind that the general current situations regarding the pandemic and the damages caused by this furious medical terrible condition. On the top of that, I particularly would like to request to you and keep in your mind while you are reciting the mantra of Aryatara, think about the India and the Indians in these very days suffering tremendously, experience tremendous suffering due to the current plight in India. And so I think we talked before that you generate a strong wish, may all the beings who are suffer and from the be able to separate themselves, or you wish you can separate them from the suffering, whatever they experience. That is the essence of the compassion. Having that compassion in your mind, and then reciting the Aryantara's mantra while you are meditating.
Chumden ma la mo ro ma la shang za ro ma da ri hua mo da ra yin ji ken se ma da ri do na tan je de ma so yi ki chen la ran de da re de re so da re de so da re de re so da re de re so da re de re so da re re so da re de re so Dodgen, Roman, the journey, Ruachikam, Maliwa, the Sama, Kubrasho, Susan, Abachini, Panyatan, later, Ruin and the Maliwa, the Shawam, Brasho, Manamata, Badan, Sama, the John Rosenbo, also Banyanji, Sem down danger. 너 속는 다 같은 것들이 막 뭐들 로그인 싫어.
We're going to continue the meetings that we left in previous Sunday.
다 로중이 전 생위츠는 로바인 시송대 원루된기 치 셈니 쌈대 돈덤 상심 조유 워드 런기 갑기 용위 토마 gel라 종화인데 구이나 겐지정 단줄 침마사와 정 용올렌 베로 어르지 만 gel라 로르기 지민 gel라 끼와 따오즈네 도치더네 다 로장위 땅느스 다땅 종토 첨보 응아든 인데 시 송대 네 아우데 가르즈나 상지지 셈 송럽 근기 형보 통내 디 탐츠드 고르셰피 셈 첨보 린디 라 일치네 니와 타상 타 실란 젬버 르파 젬바 첨보 랑지기 뇨몬 좀발라 가tum기 아두 조비 슬 스피 가트바 첨보 링업기 조바 탁친기 치 지당 먼저버 게종 첨보 상치지 셈얀랑 노도 지위 남줄 진트 콤버셰피 남줄와 첨보 영정 텀나 요와인 시송대 따자진 이위치 다 쫄정 물롱와진도 마웅위 산이 로크르소 문님바 로르와 지종영 가신 카슬 실가 동화 성지 좀든디라 마위 랑리리 링은 성빈지우 임바 고르마차고스 데르터 달라 카즈름 달라 노바 시경암 대진 샤카 동정랑 단지 상치가 된 게르즈리 어느 시 양탁과는 슝위 제 요르위 스 다오진트리아
Now, let's go to the page 90. The translation in your copy on page 90. Regarding the actual measure of a trained mind, the text says, the treasure of a trained mind is that it has turned away. This refers to the arising of experience of the stages of practice in your mind. From contemplation of the preliminary practice up to the training in the ultimate awakening mind, so that an awareness of the need to make the most of freedom and opportunity under all circumstances without wasting them arises naturally in the mind. The sign of the trained mind, the text says there are 5 great marks of a trained mind. 1. The great hero who constantly familiarized himself with the awakening mind, that it is the essence of all the teachings. 2. The great disciplinarian who is careful to avoid even the slightest of offense out of his conviction in the law of cause and effect. 3. The great ascetic who can bear hardships in the course of subduing the disturbing emotions in his mind. 4. The great practitioner of virtue who never separates the activities of his mind and speech from the tenfold conduct of the greater evil. 5. The great yogi who constantly practices the yoga of the awakening mind and its associated teachings. The text says, the text says, to train the mind, restrain, control, even when distracted, just as a skilled rider who not fail if his horse bolts while he is distracted. Similarly, even if we inadvertently hear unpleasant remarks, such as accusation from hostile quarters, or we are criticized and mocked, as there are many who even criticize Buddha, the transcendent subduer. We should understand that it is undoubtedly the result of negative actions we committed. Criticize me, or inflicts harm upon others, or similarly ridiculous me, may they be blessed with enlightenment. When such thoughts as expressed in the guide of Buddha's way of life arises naturally in your heart, that is the sign of having mind.
로중이 철 녜진다 로중 파츠 철로 동부로 걸정을 성위츠는 로파 있는지니 성위츠는 고주때 맞소로지니 성치파 창어르도 파쇼고 도쇼고 가서 요모기 델리파 삼로타마 도지니 네 상습고 쇼라 저 특별자다 상제의 상주고 스테네 이드파당 뭐겨와트 상제네 용어서 뭐기위셔 돈이야 돈도 그랬을 시송대지니다 로탕가도 혼로 땡기 치 남라 남레 참대 혼로 땡다 한 가정 동안 누구는 기능이나 혼도 잠도 섬겨라 소바 답변에 냥지 샘도 공부나 뒤절에 견디망한다나 소바다 혼도 소탐지 송서 가정 오만 딩하다 동아서든 동아부조네 혼도 땡기 치남레 참대 당봉고 참대니 참대 다 돈도 상지지 샘 정기 월 라는기 갑기 용의 토마 길라 종화 인데즈네 돈도 상지지 샘세데 가르적거르즈나 돈도 상지 샘세데 안에 기타 안에 동이 똑배로라 저거래 라 안에 어떤데 지가 동이 똑배로더 안젤라 길라 겨르세팔라 그 쿼트 동보네 민종 상지 샘양 답이 따와지네 뜻이 오늘 바로 뭐지 당치는 텐디진 길라 끼고를 길라 저를 인나 꽤나 땡기 경 단줄 심어서 저 용어 렘버 로 지민 길라지와 따오드네 어다네 회렘바이나 알아서드네 Jang Tanjur Timali Rambuchi de la Humo Lemba Shibala Tangazuchi Tangbo ni Tanjur de Pe Nyekawa Imba, the net Tunchawa Imba, the net Matapar Jupiter Lawa Imba, or Telig Rambachin Samlo Tangwanas, or the Digi Rambachin Dogores that it's the shape.
Well, what's we needed to know about what you have we just read. Essentially, here it gives us some kind of the tool helps us to assess or to measure. In other words, to examine our the levels of the trained mind, or to determine how well we are doing in terms of this particular meditation of the training of the mind. Like the text says, all that can be tasted or can be determined how well your training of the mind meditation is can be determined by the way how you oppose or take the action that is reverse from the actions that are supposed to be abandoned, or the attitude that supposed has to be purified. Because only the way we can for sure that how well our meditation on training of the mind is successful or not, and it can be judged reflected by our very mental attitude and our physical behavior. And so therefore, when you begin to see that you are doing the things which is the opposite, which is in the reverse order, in terms of like the way you responded to the non-virtuous action, right? And those offensive behaviors and attitudes, and the mindset and so on and so forth. When you see that now you are experiencing the type of mind, mental attitudes or mind setting, and that is see the non-virtuous action as non-virtuous action, and then doing the things opposed to that very negativity or non-virtue itself, and at the physical level also, and both by body and speech. So you are doing the things that which is opposite from the non-virtuous behavior or non-virtuous activity. So that is quite that's clearly the sign. You can determine and you can conclude that your training, your meditation of training of the mind is successful. And so see this is a successful sign or the marks of the successful of the training. Then the one has to follow that the practice that to perfect it, this very successful, the marks of the success. And so, in other words, in order to continuously stick on to that very process of the practice and so here, and in Tibetan called Chanwa. Chanwa means purified or to be purified and being purified or has been purified. So the purification is the ultimate measurement, assessment. So you can, or the tool that you can assess whether you are purely you are thoroughly been purified, or reached the point of the perfection of the purification in terms of the training of your mind. Well, to achieve this point of the perfection of the purification of the training of the mind, and one has to again remind that we need to remind ourselves. We have to go and the back and to constantly and make sure that our this training, the successful point of the training of the mind is depend upon all kinds of preliminary practice. So it is the production of our engagement, our dedication in the preliminary practice. So all the preliminary practice, such as like start with practicing to develop the mind of refuge or refuge mind, meaning take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and then dedicate yourself to and train your mind, develop the mind of renunciation, and then develop the mind of bodhicitta, and then generate the pure view or the wisdom that realize the ultimate nature of reality, like the three principles, the teachings of the path to the enlightenment. So essentially, is the mind of renunciation, the mind of awake and enlightenment, and then the wisdom that see the ultimate reality of nature of reality. So, and the wisdom which you see the ultimate nature of reality, that in terms of a training of the bodhicitta is called the ultimate bodhicitta. So prior to this achievement, the ultimate nature, ultimate Buddha nature, bodhicitta, and all those are the preliminary practice. So then, what is the ultimate bodhicitta? We said that the ultimate bodhicitta is the mind or the awakening mind, and that is the mind that realizes the emptiness or the ultimate reality. So to make all these comments in a short and or through the example, we can see and what really we need to know here is so the way to train and to measure your levels of or the success of your the status of your training and of the mind in meditation, and that can be understood through the examples of like a rider and the riding on the horseback. Suppose that you are a rider and you are riding on the horseback, okay, and approaching and towards your destiny or destination. And meanwhile, unexpected circumstances occur, and that could cause the boat or the things that event happened that your horse got scared and then caused like some kind of almost like an accident. However, because you are so skilled a rider, and so no matter how violently the horse was behaving himself, or the conditions was horrified, but because the rider, in this case, of course, the trainers of the trainers of the mind training of the training of the mind meditation, who is so skillful and who is whose training is very successful, so therefore he or she will not be defeated or will not be failed by these challenges circumstances. So that's through this example, we know, and we have something we can rely on, and always can examine or to tasting and our levels or the status of the training of the mind. So anyway, the foundation practice is very, very crucial. So the foundational practice here, let me just quickly remind you that is, for example, we have to go back and repeatedly reflect upon the simplest or the foundational practice, such as like the meditation of the precious human body. The meditation of the precious human body is that you began to, in your meditation, reflecting and by reflecting to thinking but to clearly and to see that the form of body, which is a human body you obtained here in this lifetime, is very precious. This is a very precious, powerful, and the tool of human body is extremely difficult to obtain. But sadly enough, it also is very easy to get lost or be damaged. And so, and therefore, we have the greater opportunity and the freedom, because the form of precious human body we have, so therefore we have to remind us that the precious opportunities we already have, the freedoms that we already obtained. So, but if we do not take advantage of it, then it can be easily a loss or fail to take advantage of it. So therefore, we have to reflect on this crucial fundamental foundational practice and over and over, and to remind us. So we do need to take advantage of what we have, or we entitled, or we endured with.
어떤 도로 디잖아 들자 원로고 때니 종대 치다 탐제라 방인종선 선로 송바르비 고명으로서 수gel라 지면기 용화도 토병으로서 다 오늘 전에 아니 로티 쇼슨 조르고 따그레 회나지니 다 어떻게 다게게 가심서 회트 깔랑 거잖아 단줄기 멀리텔라 아니 용고요 바드 소소 셈나 로타 초빙고는 니송나 다 나무 치스 땅거 말지 켄 가르 종나 소소고 단주고 멀리 렘바 니마르리가 디초텔라 땅 돈돈다 바 용고 렘바 뜻베 로 지면기 용화 토바에서 까티나 셈나네 기라용 듣고 말이지 딱 소소 용이 강 지와데 땅보 티와지 티위도 삼바 삼베곰도 곰지 소소라 용화 토지나 다로 장위 또브레 뜻이라 돈로 디샤나 단다 티츠 돈도 들시라
Probably I didn't make the last point that clear. Let me go back and just say something very briefly about the last point. So here, the thing is, so we needed to understand or remember that we needed to we need to know that the goal of our practice and what is the actual point that we need to got our mind to be trained, and the very contents of the training of the mind that is the awakening mind, and so the focus is the focal point is the awakening mind, and we are constantly working, and supposedly we are constantly working on that, right? So then, how we know whether our practice and the effort we are making is meaningful, and the point we should be sort of confirm, be sure ourselves that my practice is now is successful. So that very the measurements you can determine how well you are doing in this training of the mind, meaning the training of the awakening mind, is that whenever you feel that very inspiration and the inspiration of awakening mind, and the action along with that very inspiration is naturally arising, right? Without make any effort. It just spontaneously arose by self, and it's just comes by itself, and without any effort. So that's a natural state of a natural kind of mechanism, the momentum sort of experience if it occurred. When that takes place, you just find that you are in the mode of that awakening mind, or the state of this awakening mind, and then that is the sign, and that's the sign that shows that your training of the mind in this particular meditation is successful. And so let me give a very simple example. For instance, like at a preliminary level, and we need to meditate on the importance of the value, the great value of the precious human body that we obtain. Meditation on the preciousness of human body, whether it is successful or not, has been fruitful or not, and that it can be determined so throughout the day, right? And if you, as a result of your meditation on the cultivation of, on the contemplation of the precious human body, or the greater value of the precious human body, turns out that now from every day, and from the moment to moment, or it just keeps rising in your mind. There's a kind of a voice which reminds you and make you be very clear, and the form of human body you have is precious, and you can take advantages, you should take advantages while you are still on this precious human body, to get what we call the essence of the human existence. So the essence here is a training of the mind, on meditation of the awakening mind. When you feel or you see, you notice that this sense of the inner voice or inner call of actually, right, say, hey, you got the human body precious, and it's very difficult to obtain, and very easily can be lost or damaged. So therefore, dedicate to the process of dedicate yourself to the Dharma through the process of hearing, meaning that collect the knowledge and from a Dharma book, and then contemplating on that very knowledge and or analysis the validity of that very knowledge that you contemplating, you collected, and then to try to reach the point, and then get the certainty, the sense of certainty about the knowledge of the Dharma that you collected, and then brought that very knowledge and into your meditation and every day. So this is the sign, and you can use it to judge whether your practice of the meditation of a precious human body has been successful or not.
Mm-hmm. 다 론 조르 땅나 조르타 쳔보 ngaasi ta lo ti shokla pa ro thup gu yome yome ta ro ta 쳔보 nga yo res ta tangbo te la karzna song te es ne ta sim de ga shangchi gi sem sonrup gun gi yongbo thong ne ti thamche de gombur shepi semba 쳔보 se tangbo de oda shangchi gi sem se te lab 쳔보 yimba sono thamchi gu song ye ne chi thamchi song yongwo te ne shangchi sem ge la ki wa ti chet yimba samne thamchi de samne ane shangchi sem gombur shepa na semba 쳔보 jitang semba sanhwa 쳔보 se de ne samlo ya 쳔보 go samlo ya 쳔보 de shangchi sem rang chewren zba ma jen chewren zbe go ne nyong thong go ne sem 쳔보 de la shangchi sem sanhwa 쳔보 se go re se ot 쳔보 chi de re.
So further, we have more and kind of tools or the measurements, and we can examine our conditions and our levels of the success in this particular training of the mind. There are 5 of them, right? And so the first one is a being, and they're called the grade 5. So the grade 5, the marks that we can use to examine ourselves, and is the first is the great hero, who are constantly familiarize himself with the awakening mind in the knowledge that is that it is the essence of all teaching. So, which means that the awakening mind, or to develop the mind of enlightenment, right? That is our goal. So if you realize that you see all the Buddha's teaching, all the scriptural knowledge, and so all the different discussions and the discourse of Buddhist literature, the writings, all of them is point out to the same direction, to the same essence, that is Bodhicitta. So if you see your understanding of or your interpretation of the essence of the very purpose, or the essence of the Buddha Dharma is to help you to develop the mind of enlightenment or awakening mind, and so then that means you are the like the textbook says that is a great hero, and great hero here in the simplest term, that means you are someone, your mind is now something is becoming vast and become extremely expanded, or wide too. So, and while they open to or expanded to what, right? It's to the others cherishment. Right? So we know that essentially we are kind of being abused or totally and controlled, even we're obsessed to the self-cherishment, right? That's our prior to the success of successful training of the mind training the meditation. Yeah, our conditions, our basic the self experience of the life is that everything is about ourselves, is a self-cherishment, right? We do everything that driven by the self-cherishment. But as the result of our training in this particular meditation, the training of the mind, at the point if we develop the awakening mind, the mind of enlightenment, the essence of all Buddha Dharma, then we will see a field where our mind is become vast, become expanded, become greatly open, and so open to what? Open to all other. Okay, we are now completely shift ourselves from the self-judgment to others' judgment. So this is why when you reach this point, and this is one of the 5 signs that will tell that clearly you can use to determine whether you are and your meditation of training of mind is successful or not. And but if you are there, and if whoever reach this point is called the great hero.
오다 니와테 림딜라 일치니 니와 타모랑 zembi dawa chimbo si ane kyorong lindila tachikda ichi sangma chaksongna tela ane niwa chongchong da kun zembang chigade tensa tetsina kyorong dawa chimbo si da sem dal chini ane nyumo wanta mado rangsam marwaan dawar chini nyumo wanta mado ina dawa chimbo si desi.
So after the first, the great hero, and secondly is the great disciplinarian. Like the text says, the great disciplinarian who is careful to avoid even the slightest offense of his conviction in the law of cause and effect. So which means as a sign or the tool, and the sign we can see or the tool we can use to measure whether our training of the mind is successful. It's 11 o'clock. Our understanding and the way we responded to the teachings of cause and effect or law of causality. And if we realize that as a result of our training of the mind and in this particular form of meditation, now and has helped us to reach the point where we are no longer and to commit to even the slightest the aggressive or aggressions, or the actions and the attitude that essentially the law of cause and effect. If we see we are really following, observing, and keep our moral, ethical practice without any stand, without any slightest transgression, and then you can clearly tell now you are the great disciplinarian, and you are the very successful and the practitioner in the training of the mind meditation. So, which in the simple, again, in the very simplest term, now you are no longer affected by the afflictive emotions or disturbing emotions. In fact, you are now all the afflictive emotions is totally under your control.
The sensitive Katupa Chembos in it, Sosu Gila Yomo, Chadang Loss of Akiona, Tela Kati, Yembutini, Tela, Kapija Taba in Suna, Tola, Kalachembos, Katupa Chembos, Kawachembo, Chotapkinza, Katupa Chembos, Mount Horse.
The third measurement or the tool that we can assess ourselves, our practice of training the mind, is called the great ascetics. So what the great ascetics is, or he or she can do, or is doing, is that who can bear hardships in the course of subduing the disturbing emotions in his mind. And so we know the disturbing emotions are essentially manifested as attachment or aversion. So when the attachment any form of attachment or aversion arise, and as a successful practitioners of in this particular meditation, the meditation of the training of the mind, is now can successfully to eliminating or can subdue or put the and afflictive emotions under control. He or she is able to bear the challenges of the attachment and aversion, and in the circumstances of the aversion and arising of the attachment or aversion, he or she remains still, remain calm and firm. That means he or she is a great ascetics. And this is the third sign of the marks we can use to determine our success of the practice in this training.
다 링크 조바 특징지 치즈 또 먼저월 개종 첨보지 다 리딩업 그 주당 안에 머비치 공 머기 지봉 처럼라 소바 돈비 고네 아니 지 링크 조바도 딱바 첨보람라 대당 남바 좀 개주를 안에 더 상차와도 추시와 지세랑 소바 되리가 디샤와 더더라 좀 치주 지세니 등가지한데 단당이 더더 가정망이 더 점마다 단데 레지tant 코먼드 남는 첨보 남는 볼음노나 또 치주지도 자 치우치 토바침부 치주지도 딱 공들 링거 있음 그 먹이 잘라 소바 송이고네 애니 저 상사와 주셔발라 소바데 니마치 그 소속 냠는 차상 증로 등이지라 다 때라 탁바침부 섬지 탐지기 돈 삼는 당의 근조들은 개종치 모시고 그러지.
So the fourth great hero, I mean, fourth tool or the measurement we can use to determine our practice of the meditation training mind is the great practitioner of the virtue, Ashradharma, and Ashravamana, probably in sense. And so, who is or is not, and has reached this point of to become the great practitioners of virtue, and it can be determined whether that person, and as a result of his or her practice in the training mind, now he or she is like the way they practice in and the form of life they live in is that's always abide with compiled with the 10 virtuous action, and never affected it from its opposite, and the non-virtuous action. And also, he or her is strictly and clearly the engaging in the practice of what we call the 10 and Dharma, 10 Dharma, the dedications of 10 Dharma, Mahayana Dharma. So this 10 Mahayana Dharma is the 10 different 10 forms of the practice which the practitioner carried out throughout his or her daily life. And so I can't give you right away those 10 numbers, but basically in what it is, the 10 Dharma is they are essentially the practice of all the essential components of the Mahayana teachings.
남주로 첨보세 어때 영지 디 양락다 상지심 소지 디 톱시 양락 탐지 영지 영 숨나 선로 콤버셰베인다 콤비다 디 온조 넬 조르세데 넬세데 디 돈텔라 셈 네니니 디기 용든도 소수기란 조로 용수 가서든 남주로 와서네니 디마드 토고레 소르
뭔가데 추추추데 저게 주마다 송가 니든다다 요응이 마트샤가
추추추데 요나키 교정나데 그 또 집단 가정이 시당동네 통성도 정리 따다 좀 같은 지하던 때 꼴찌 늑삼성.
네, 맨날 남이 똑같이 자자가.
그래요.
Yes. So Kishipunga as said he knows it as he remembers those 10 and the Dharma practice or 10 Mahayana the spiritual activities and what they are, but he can't tell all of them. And for example, one of them is like that they engage in the daily practice such as chanting and or recitation and so on and so forth. But I have find that those 10 and translations here, and Krishna asked me to read to you. Okay, so the 10 the Dharma practice or the 10 spiritual activities of Mahayana, Mahayana practice for the practitioner is the number one is transcribing the teaching. So the first is transcribing the teaching, and the second is worshiping, and third is giving, and the fourth is listening to the teaching, and the fifth is reading the teachings, and the sixth is comprehending the teaching, and seven is instructing others, and eighth reciting holy works, and nine and the 10 meditation. So those are the 10 the Mahayana Dharma practice, or the 10 spiritual activities of the Mahayana teaching. Here we got to know is that what is next, that is the fifth great marks of the trained mind is the great. The great yogi is who practices the yoga of the awakening mind and its associated teachings. What this means is that as the of the mind who can measure or assess one's status of one's training or the levels of which they are achieved can be determined whether they are someone can be considered as a great yogi. The yogi here is the practitioner who practices yoga. The yoga here is the meditation and of the awakening mind. So this awakening mind is like you can start with by reflecting or the thinking of and the kindness of all sentient beings, and consider them you owe them, and then determined to return their kindness, and then and develop the mind of kindness, and then develop mind of compassion, and then go on and develop the altruism, and then finally to develop the mind of enlightenment. So this is a process that if you go and repeatedly, that's your mind in your mind, and you go over and this process of the process of the training point by point, and then to perfect each point one by one, and then make it become something that's very much natural phenomena, natural experience, and or sort of automatically, and is developing, or is becoming your day-to-day and mental the life or activity, and then that means you are now your practice of the yoga of the awakening mind is very successful, and from this point onwards, and you can be the one considered a great yogi. And this is the fifth greater remarks of the success of the training of the mind.
What is the tactics of the young Timnan drawings? Or this Sember Namionly Sara go tapaina? Then a net in Jurasin. So Gelati, Sem the Pashok, Sem Namians and Tessera, Mayon Bishola, Gongushola, Sara, look good about it. Tatuins, Pena, Quilona, and Tala, still Tashun, Sachin the Digina, because number some young down the Tikatan Jotan and the Kota Lima Hongomars, Kotel Tingla, still Jorat, Chimbu, Tinajin, as lot young with top Jora Chimbush, some passion is getting about the Kappa in a T want to do Maris. But in Sata, Mao is honey, that the career is not me. Mayu Sani, Mayu so much of the Chisons Miga Koran Depaton, Rokurs, Rondo Senator, much of Chison Setter. Quantum Setter, Mepala Yopa Yopala Mepa Yopa Shila, Yomar the Sena, Kora de Bare. Young Machi of the Chison Sena, Rodo Bare, or Rondo La Sope, Manimba, Laura Chichons, or Teddy Manimba, Manimba Pachoni. Jendushi also catch Manimba Karachunga in a young Ronly Ling and Bisapi Dew in Burkurma, or teach the Susuli Rota, the Kiwangamang, one the Chinang Chichio Marta, quando the Rondo Chugua, China Ratati, Cabrio Mother, Rangikiwanga Lis up in Dew in Geret. Conta dollar Kazirams, a million such dollar Katanwa, Zenki Nopashiwa. Division Sharkat was that Yabon Damada chair today. Tamchi Sanchika Dinkirzin. What Tamchi and this Sansu to be gay or Shochis, the Tijin Conizina, Semchin Tamchi, Semchim Yuan had so far gay Chang Matuna, the Semjing Samu, Namada Zontinza, Sanji Jumden digging on Semji Tamchi Samu, Tamji Chamber, the Kumatuena, and the Tukumarawa, some Samu to Tangchin any. So to the rich in Yamnaji Twaina. Young Tapani Jung Dombao, or did so Samtang the Legal one in Yamlinji Twaina, that low jung is still so tombare, so that to the show.
So like we read in the text, the trained mind remain controlled even in distracted. This is the final kind of a conclusive the remarks or the comment about whether our training of the mind on the awakening mind is successful or not. Like the text said, and so whatever the conditions and situations you are in, or you sort of have to deal with, and one thing that you can be sure and how well you are doing and how well you are doing is, it can be determined and the way how you behavior, how you respond to yourself in that particular instance or the situation. We as a human being in our daily life, day-to-day life, and the most one of the most important situation we have to deal with is that people could blame us by exaggerating the circumstances or situations and then blame us, and or oppositely, and could denial us. So the exaggerated and by exaggerating the situation and then blame on us is that even we didn't do anything or we are doing something, but which is not the actual case. However, and the individual who doesn't like us, who may exaggerating, make a big deal of what he or she or they consider is wrong, and what we are doing is wrong, is bad. So then they can fabricate, and they can enlarge the nature or the size of the activities or behaviors situation, and that we were in. So they can develop or build up cases against us and then blame us and criticize, and then use it to criticize us. So we encountering thing, right? We can immediately measure ourselves, see how well we are, how we feel, how well we are responded to it. If we find that we totally understand our circumstances and also understand why those people and who the fabricating or cases against us, and if you have to fully understand and with a great compassion, and then not respond to their unpleasant remarks and or the criticism, and remain calm, that means our practice is successful, and we are doing well. At the same time, another very difficult challenges we generally we have to deal with, or is hard to overcome, is the denial. Denial means that you are someone and you're doing well, and you deserve it, something that you deserve, but the people they deny it, right? And then they establish or make some kind of cases and stories to say and that it is not, and try to demonize you, and then try to prevent you, and try to not give you the acknowledgement that you deserve. So in this kind of cases, in such a situation that people deny you, right? And if you upon hear such a thing, or engage, has to deal with such a situation, and if you find that you are totally fine with it, you understand it, and so and you kind of tell yourself that you understand what's going on, and you have nothing hold against others, and even though they deny you and or they yes that what they did to you, if you're not deserve it, and if you're not experience anything aversion and against them, and that's clearly shows that your practice of the training of the mind is successful. So here the exaggeration and the denial is in the philosophical term is this. Exaggeration is that so there are sometimes in some cases there's nothing at all, but people just build up a false scenario or narrative, and then make a big deal of it, or use it against you. That is the exaggeration. Because you see, there's nothing. If people say there is, and then make it up and make a big deal of it, and that is exaggeration. The denial is there is a thing, there is actuality. Actually is there. The fact is there, but the people consciously or deliberately deny that very reality, and then say there's nothing, no, it is not, and then try to completely disregard what is true, and then that is the in the philosophical term, and that's how the exaggeration and the denial being used. In our case, like we talked about it here and just before, and so when you experiencing the unpleasant remarks, or running into a situation, people deny you and block you, and it doesn't give you the access, give you the access to the titles or whatever you deserve, and if you remain calm and not respond to negatively, but most importantly, you think, oh, you didn't do anything wrong, or you deserve it, but the people still set up the false narrative against you, or they did something that's great, it should be acknowledged, but they did not. They deliberately consciously deny it, and then in this both cases, you should say, oh, I know what I did, what I did not do it, but the people treat me in this way. There must be something, I committed, not in this lifetime, but I did something in the previous lifetime. So my negative karma, which I committed in the previous lifetime, now it turns in such a way against me. And so you fully sort of accept it and remain calm. And then move on. And at the same time, you also can use this reasoning. There's nothing really I need to be so upset or so angry about it or disappointed about it. Why? Because even the greatest, the transcendent subduer, such as a Buddha or enlightened one, and they cannot always or in all cases make everyone happy or pleased and accept, agreed upon. So I am just an ordinary being. Of course, those people who, if they don't agree and show the respect and to the enlightened being such as Buddha, and so why and I need to be about it or upset about it. You can also use this as a part of the reasoning to overcome this trouble you are facing.
Oh yeah, that one. Now
we have yeah, a few minutes. And do you have any questions or comments would you like to make?
Time was good. Draw me na ni. Also, kan don de. 나는 먹는 돈 저는 까만 주도 성교 들었어. 各松特节爱着咱的所上之心中人不及马吉邦的节日去把每本用功的派文手热为国为上个么马林中为让这样作为设备身体part但是就让是这件把当跟的容这样的人得到根据就是道路安的到他们这了的小辈叫我他们自己我看了说的我吧好像给我早晚的跟中就是了的我儿俺的中的担保的上但是给我他们这跟跟上的这跟老的这准备上街担保到的节日去我总高为当作些年的爱是在别因为俺别那上的呢可就这样多本马家就把这年把你的那里他就是去路易那那马里我到底生活没不是说嘛那么的当把当上啊的做这不是若是不老说吧养鸡生当当家就的老成的老年嘛光样的现在到底的老辈关注生计找西说Okay, thank you, everybody. Yeah.